How many seconds? I feel like these are the dirtiest things to exist now.
Welcome to tonight's live stream where we are discussing what to do and possibly what not to do with your 401k, your pension or your lump sum. And if you have a 403b or a 457, all those retirement accounts fit into this category. We'll even talk about some of the nuances between those different retirement accounts. But if you've been laid off, if you're retiring or about to retire, what to do with that 401k. So with me tonight, I have Ryan Kenny, who hasn't been on here since with Lizzie, who is in your pod. You guys work really closely together. And we actually talked about lump sums or pensions last time you guys were here.
Yes, we did.
Yep. So welcome, Ryan. And then, of
Good to be
course,
back.
Nicole Riney, our resident superstar. So I'm
right.
sure Nicole has a lot of clients, and I'm going to get a lot of comments and high fives for Nicole. So looking forward to that tonight. If
My
you guys
super
could,
fans.
if you guys could just keep them to a minimum.
No.
We don't want her head to get too big.
No. I bribe them. Shh.
So, but like we do everything here at Oak Harvest, it's not just about the black and white. It's not just about what you should or should not do. It's about the emotional side of things, the psychological side. So we're going to delve into that tonight as well, because that's one of the biggest things that happens in retirement is there's this entire psychological shift from the accumulation phase into the retirement phase. So I'm going to lay a couple ground rules here, and then Nicole, we're going to start with you to talk about some of the psychological differences. So what we want to do is make this as interactive as possible. So if you have questions, please submit them into the chat box here. We're going to do our best to answer them for you, create a nice dialogue. The first person who usually comments motivates other people to comment, and then the interaction gets pretty good as the night goes on. So I want to encourage you to
Come on,
do that.
Juan. I know you're out there. Start commenting, Juan.
And then we're going to do 2 raffles tonight. So the first raffle is going to be in about 20-25 minutes, and we're doing a gift card to your favorite restaurant. So it's a $100 gift card to your favorite restaurant. But to register to have an opportunity to win the gift card, you're going to see a QR code on your screen, and you'll scan that. And what you'll do when you scan that is you'll receive our 10-step guide if you've been laid off or if you're retiring. So you'll get 2 things. You'll have an opportunity to win a $100 gift card to your favorite restaurant, and you'll receive the 10-step guide to being laid off or retiring. So ground rules out of the way. Nicole, let's just start with what should somebody not do whenever they either get laid off or retire?
Oh, man, where do I even start? Well, number one, it kind of depends on the stage of life that you're in, right? If you're younger, there's different options. A lot of times people think, well, how am I going to pay my bills? I better just cash out my 401k. Whoa, hold up. Let's stop. Let's take a second and think about that. But if you're closer to retirement and you were considering retiring anyways, then there's a lot more nuance to what that decision is going to entail. So, I mean, I would just say don't do any knee-jerk reactions. Let's sit down. Let's look at your plan and see what necessarily needs to take place. Do you plan on going back to work? Are you mentally prepared to retire, if that's the case? We've had people be laid off before, and we're like, yeah, we can absolutely make this work. We can build you a plan. But they just weren't mentally ready yet. And so even though we could make it work, they were like, no, I got to go back to work. I'm not mentally there yet. And being laid off doesn't necessarily mean you're ready to stop working.
Well, to that point, so I had a client, this has been 8-9 years ago. Plenty of money, could have easily retired, and every 6 months he would come in for his semi-annual review, and I'd say, okay, are we ready to retire? Are we ready to move to the next chapter of your life? And after about a year or two, he finally kind of broke down and he told me why he couldn't retire. And what he said was, he says, Troy, my identity is tied to my job. He says, I go to work every single day. I know everyone there. I have authority. People respect me. This is what I've been doing for such a long time. And it was really, I guess, eye-opening for me because he had all these plans and everything that he wanted to do in retirement, but he was so tied to his identity at his job that he was actually driving an hour from Sealy to downtown. So probably a little bit more than an hour every single day, one way. And just because he didn't want to retire.
Ready.
Yeah, on I-10 too.
Yeah, that's a big, big part of it. And same kind of tale. I have a client currently who I've been trying to get him for years. I'm like, why are you still working? Why are we still working? He just truly enjoys his job. And they just offered, early retirement packages. And he's like, okay. And it ends up being a really sweet package. So I'm like, all right, good for you for not listening to me. I don't say that very often, but I was very proud of him. I'm like, no, that's a great move. I'm glad you stuck it in there. You feel more ready, and that's the key there. And so he was able to, now he's more comfortable to take that next step and actually retire. So
JT from Cyprus, how you doing? Scott from Pearland. Dwayne from Tennessee. Dwayne, thanks for always coming here. Ryan, you have some fans on the live stream tonight.
Nice.
No way.
I'm sure one or two.
Mark and Michelle from Vancouver say hi.
Oh, hey, Mark, Michelle, how are you guys doing?
Okay, Ryan, anything there? What should somebody not do? Anything that comes to mind before we jump into some of the nitty-gritty about 401ks?
Yeah, I mean, initially, especially if you're of age, it seems preemptive to most people to just go ahead and turn on that Social Security benefit to get some income coming in, especially when you're put into a situation where maybe you're not ready. But there's just so many considerations around that decision, both for the short term and the long term, right? Are we going back to work? Are we not? Are we going to have any type of income or are we not? So I just always try to advise people to just take a breath. Let's look at this, take a little bit of time. Something that stuck with me from a conversation earlier was, don't react, act, right? That's what Nicole was saying. And just take our time, right? Take a deep breath, slow down. Let's make the right decision for the long term.
Yeah, because if you're married and have a normal life expectancy, it's quite possible your family's Social Security benefits will be somewhere between $1 and $2 million over the course of your retirement. Right. Both spouses worked, or even if both spouses didn't work. If one spouse has, let's say, $30,000, the other spouse has $20,000, or say 35 and 17.5, you start to get to $50,000 a year of annual Social Security. With no cost of living adjustments over 20 years, that's $1 million of Social Security income.
It's huge.
So the difference between taking it at 62 versus 64 or 62 versus 66, you don't always have to defer it. You don't always have to wait until 70 or even your full retirement age. For many of you, it makes a lot of sense to take it early. But the point is, don't automatically take it just
right.
because you don't have paychecks coming in anymore.
Right.
That's part of the psychological mindset and framework that we're going to look at some of tonight's content through, because that's the easy decision, right? I don't have paychecks. I don't have income. So let me push this button so I can create some income, and that'll buy me some time to figure out the 401k and the expenses and everything else.
Right. Yeah. Don't panic apply.
Yeah. Well,
no panic applying for Social Security.
It's like we talk about all the time too, we don't make a decision in a bubble, right? About one thing, right? So, hey, we need income, turn on Social Security. Well, what other sources do we have? Where else could we take this from? Social Security has some tax advantages to it. There could be a good reason for the long term that we want to wait a year or two. You could be going back to work. There's considerations around that. So just let it be kind of known that it's not just Social Security, it's with everything else, but we just take a breath, slow down, let's figure this out, ask the right questions, put together something that's going to help us be successful in the long term.
And it's not, what we want to be careful is we want to make decisions, but we want to make thoughtful decisions once we've gathered the information to then analyze it and make an intelligent decision.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So when we talk about 401ks, and if you're watching tonight, let me know, do you guys have more 401ks, 403bs? Do you have, I actually ran into a SARSEP recently. Do you remember what a SARSEP is?
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't?
They, I think they haven't been allowed to be created since it's like 25, 30 years.
Oh, so of course that's why you remember.
Yeah, good one. But I haven't run. This was the first time I've run into one in probably 15 years.
You're like a year older than me.
So anyways, if you have what type of retirement account do you have at work, or did you have at work? If you put it in the chat box here, because there are nuances between 403Bs, 457s. So let us know what you have, and we can tailor the discussion possibly around that. So most people end up rolling their retirement account over, their 401k to an IRA. Some people take longer than others. A lot of times people will leave their 401k behind, though, at their previous employer. We call them orphan 401ks. If you are getting near retirement, let's say you are going to retire, is there any reason to leave your 401k behind, Nicole?
It depends on the age you're retiring. So let's say you're trying to retire early, and if you retire at the age, there's this age of 55 rule, where if you retire after 55 and you keep your money at the 401k, you can take distributions from it before 59 and a half without that additional penalty. However, if you roll it into an IRA, now you're going to be assessed that additional 10% penalty. So there have been cases where we'll kind of figure out how much do we think you're going to need between 55 and 59, and then maybe roll out so that we have more control over the investment options of the other assets that we don't think you're going to need at that point in time. So there's pros and cons, and you need to kind of figure out what does life have for you between now and then so that we can plan that whole cash flow situation around it. And it just kind of helps manage risk so that we can be less aggressive in the 401k and more aggressive in what is waiting until you're 59 and a half. So it also plays into your investment strategy as well.
So Mike says that he is 57, his wife is 55, and he's actually taking advantage of that rule of 55 right now.
Fantastic.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, okay, Ryan, how often is it when you sit down with a new prospective client and you're going through the inventory of assets, you're getting to know them on a first visit, are you still seeing a lot of 401ks from previous employers that are still left at that previous employer?
Yeah. In fact, just last week they had 4 individual 401ks. So 3 previous employers, 1
wow.
current. Maybe a lack of understanding of what you could do with them. No judgment. It's just they had done okay and
Or it's
all
just
that.
not their thing. They're not money people.
Yeah, and that's fine. We see it quite often. Even where they've maybe in that same type of situation, they've rolled 3 or 4 past IRAs or 401ks into their current one. So now it's one 401k, their current. Where there's a lot of opportunity in planning to go ahead and shift those into an IRA, and your age may preclude you from doing that with your current one, but the past ones, there's a lot more flexibility there.
Roth conversions is a good example. So even though the government has now approved the ability to do in-plan Roth conversions, not a lot of plans have amended the paperwork to allow in-plan Roth conversion. So when I say in-plan, that means inside your 401k plan. In the industry, a retirement plan is your 401k. Even though a retirement plan could be something that we put together, you maybe consider it an IRA. But technically in the industry, when you talk about your plan or your retirement plan, it's your 401k or your 403B. So even though the law is passed now, still today, companies have not amended their paperwork to actually allow, on a grand scale, in-plan Roth conversions. You may be able to contribute to the Roth from your paycheck, but that's not the same as an in-plan conversion.
And now employers can match it, too, into the Roth.
Yeah, and that was a new rule this year.
Yeah.
So, so if you can now have your match go into the Roth. But when you leave those orphan 401k plans behind, you're really missing out on that planning opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing.
That's the big thing, yeah.
Right? Because, of course, it's, my wife, for example, when we first started dating, she was like, do you mind looking at my 401k? I was like, sure. She's in 100% bond funds.
First of all, you were excited she had one. Yes, she's got one.
She was in 100%,
I can keep dating her.
100% bond funds. And I was like, well, why are you in those? And not condescending or anything, but I was curious. How did she choose them?
Yeah.
Because there truly is a lack of education across the entire industry. But she's like, I saw that they didn't go up and down a lot in value. They were pretty secure and safe.
She's the tortoise between the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady.
Right, but just some basic education there would say, you know what, you have a lot of time before you retire. You can't touch this money until you're 59 and a half. Let's get on the equity side as opposed to the fixed income. So, of course, we made that adjustment. And but point being is I've seen plans over the years where 401ks that have been left behind, and one, you may have different life circumstances. Life may have changed, but the investments inside the portfolio, okay, you may have a lot of either really poor performing investments. You may have a lot of money in the money market account because maybe you move some there, maybe in bond funds. So when you leave that 401k behind, it's basically you're most likely going to not pay attention to it. So you're not going to change the investments, and you lose the opportunity to do planning.
Right.
So tax planning.
Yeah. And, I see it a good number of times a year where all of a sudden, I found this 401k 2 months ago. I didn't know I had it. It was from 20 years ago, right? You can lose touch with it too, right? If you get it into something that's more active, more a part of your ongoing retirement plan, whether you're 30, whether you're 60, maybe that's something helpful to help it grow, help you keep it part of your retirement plan.
Yeah, because when you leave your 401k behind, one, your company may change 401k providers. So it may go from,
Then you lose it. Yeah.
from this provider to that provider. Right. Your company may be bought by another company, and then your 401k merges, and that company may be bought by another company. So, we spent a lot of time over the years trying to locate lost 401ks. If I remember correctly, I had a client who actually had a letter sent to them. Maybe it was a defined benefit plan, but I believe it was a 401k. It was some 30 plus years old. And they were like, hey, we have this retirement account for you. And I think maybe it was part of some type of class action where they got notified, or
Social Security will sometimes send out notices that we're aware of this retirement benefit that you have not yet claimed.
Maybe
I've
that's
had
what
a
it
few
was.
clients give me these letters and like, what do I do with this?
we had to go on this
you
long
hunt down that money. That's what you do with it.
Yeah, it's not always easy because
No, it's
we
not.
went on a very, very long search for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm really getting at here is the planning opportunities. So we talked about the reason you may want to leave your 401k behind. And I'm going to talk about fees for a second too, but I'm going to toss it to Nicole, and I'm going to come back to fees because there's a big misunderstanding about 401k fees that I want to make sure I cover. But the reason to leave your 401k behind when you're near retirement is that age 55 rule. So post age 55, if you're retiring but younger than 59 and a half, you can access the money inside your 401k, avoid the 10% penalty, but you still have to pay income tax on those distributions. But what are the opportunities? What are the reasons to actually move that 401k when you retire or get laid off into an individual retirement account, an IRA?
Well, obviously, number one is you're not tied to a set list of investment options, right? You have the whole, stock market, bond market, all of these other investment opportunities available to you. That could be overwhelming to some people, and maybe that's why they don't, because they're not reaching out to a professional to help guide them into what is going to be the most beneficial investment option for you. Because especially if you work with a company like ours, we're going to first ask, what are your goals? What are your ambitions? How much do you want to spend? What's important to you? And we're going to design that investment portfolio around those goals and around the timing that you're going to need that income. So that's one thing. The other thing is inside those mutual fund options, there's typically expense ratios. So while they may say, well, you have a management fee, yeah, but you also probably have some not management fees. Well, there's those too. But there's those expense ratios inside the mutual funds as well. So the fee that you're actually paying may actually be more than what it would be if you rolled it out into an IRA.
Yeah, a lot of times it is. And thanks for the softball back to me.
Yeah.
So we run a 401k department here where we help companies manage their 401ks, take the administrative burden off their shoulders, do a lot of good stuff there. So when we have a new 401k prospect talk to us, usually it's because they're really upset with their current 401k provider, or they find out that we offer the service. The first thing we have to do is look at their existing plan. And so there's a document called a 408B2. So if you're a business owner, you have access to this. If you're in the C-suite at your company, you'll have access to this. but rank and file employees do not. You get some type of other fee disclosure once a year, but it's not as comprehensive and it's completely different form. Point being, when we analyze a new plan where they want to change and have us either manage it or be the educational provider, it is very, very common for us to find 401k fees. I call them hidden fees inside the plan of between 2 to 4% per year. Now, these aren't in the $50 billion plans typically, but your smaller employees or smaller employers, 100 employees, 150 employees, even 1,000 employees, especially 10, 20, 30, 50 employees, those 401k plans, they have a lot of hidden fees because not only do you have the mutual fund fees, and that's mostly what people think about, but then you have custodian fees, you have education fees, you have investment advisory fees, you have possibly administrative fees, you have 12B1 fees, you have kickbacks with the mutual funds, they have revenue sharing agreements where these fees are layered and hidden across the 401k itself. You have per participant plan fees. So every single participant that is in your plan, there's an annual fee that is paid or deducted from the 401k account. So you have fee on top of fee on top of fee on top of fee inside your 401k, and it's an extremely opaque industry. They're not visibly just itemized and given to you. But on that 408b2, we can identify exactly what the cost is. We saw one recently, it was an $8 million plan, had a $57,000 consulting fee attached to it.
Oh, that was me.
you signed.
Don't get rid of that one. No, just kidding. But do you
on top of about 2.5% of other fees.
Do you notice that the fees trickle down to the employee level, or
Yeah,
does the employer
all,
tend to absorb most of those costs?
No. Great question. So the employer can choose if they want to pay all those fees themselves or have them spread across every single retirement account in the plan, and they're always spread across every single retirement account in the plan. And that's where the percentage comes out. So if it's a 3% annual fee that's hidden, most consumers, they see, well, I'm in this index fund from Vanguard and I'm paying, 0.09, my fees are negligible. Mm-hmm. Well, that's your mutual fund fee. You don't have the custodial fees, the education fees, the advisory fees, the administrative fees, all that stuff. You don't find that in your mutual funds. You don't find that on that statement where you're choosing what your investments will be. But yeah, no, it's a direct deduction from the plan balance. So it reduces the value of that 401k, and it's drag. It's significant drag. This is why it's so easy to bring new clients on from the 401k world, is because not only can we take the work and the burden off employers' shoulders, but we can typically save them tens of thousands of dollars. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
And provide better service.
And I know how we operate. It's transparent, right? Every time I sit down with a client, here's what you've paid us. Here's, what other fees might be inside the ETFs, which are minimal. We try to be as transparent as possible.
So Linda has a good question here. I'm going to throw it to you, Ryan. I say right, Linda, but hopefully I'm saying it right. Or Linda W-E-R, Linda. So one, thanks for coming tonight, Linda. But she says, any recommendation? Probably I should throw this to you, Nicole.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go to Ryan, though, just because you said of course.
We'll come back to you anyways. We'll come back to you anyways.
Well, she talks about the mental preparation part. So she says, I have about 7 different accounts. I assume you're talking about 401k accounts, Linda, probably at multiple employers. A planner is looking at putting at one firm. I'm nervous about putting all my eggs in one basket. So the core question is, any recommendations for the mental preparation part heading into retirement, moving the 401ks? But there's a few different things we could talk about here.
Yeah. There's a huge psychological shift that happens. I got to watch my dad do it just about 3.5 years ago. And the first couple of years were kind of tough for him as he switched off this idea of, I don't have any income, I can't afford anything. And, he worked hard and retired well. And, it was a good couple years into retirement before finally it was like, yeah, I can afford a tank of gas. Dad, we know you can, right?
He's been eating tuna out of a can.
Right. Okay. But the point of that is, you've been in this accumulation mode, save, grow for retirement for 30, 40, 50 years. And now all of a sudden day one, it's a completely different mindset, right? You've done some interviews in the past with psychologists.
Yeah, Dr. Lindsay Mitchell.
Yeah. It's just huge. And different people take change different ways, right? So it's everyone's going to handle it different. The advice I give is give it time, right? And enjoy this next phase of life, but ultimately it's going to take some transition. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say everyone handles it differently. Some people, when they retire, they're comfortable. They're ready to spend. Others, it takes, a year, 2 or 3.
Yep.
I mean, Nicole, I can think of a few clients off the hand that you
Still
work
aren't
with
there.
that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I do notice, and this is actually why we call what we do the retirement success plan, the final plan that we put together, is because you define what success is. But I'll tell you this, over the years of doing this, I find the happiest clients that we have are the ones that have consistent income coming in every single month, irrespective of what the stock market is doing, that they know that income is going to be there. The stocks could be going up, the stocks could be going down, but because of an income plan that we have in place, where whether it's dividends, whether it's Social Security optimization, whether it's real estate, whatever it is, we have multiple streams of income coming in, and it's that baseline income planning to where if you want to spend 75, 80, 90,000, and you have 75, 80, 90,000 coming in without touching your principal, it's more comfortable. You're more secure. So,
yeah, I find myself telling some clients recently, don't let the market boss you around. Don't let it tell you how to spend your money or when to spend your money. We've built this plan. You can spend your money. And I love that. And it gives my clients just this big smile on their face because they don't want to hear, well, you need to really slow down. We got to pace ourselves. But it's like, no, we have this plan. We know where our income's going to come from. Doesn't matter what the market's doing. Go spoil your grandkids.
What should Linda do, though? Let's get back to Linda's question.
Yeah.
And Linda,
Spoil the grandkids.
So that's, I was going to add to that too, because the comment she made, not put all my eggs in one basket, right? There's so much of retirement that is about peace of mind, right? And that's what we're trying to create, whether it's through the income, through protection of the market,
to spend your money.
right? So you can sleep at night, right? Enjoy this time period that you've worked so hard to get to. All your eggs in one basket is maybe one way to think about it, but ultimately having all your assets at one place under one manager, one planner simplifies life, right? It really does, because that's, most of our clients are that way, and it allows us to do our jobs fully and help them and achieve those goals that we're talking about here. And so as long as we do,
and make recommendations.
Exactly.
Right? If we're recommending one thing and then they've got another advisor on the side that's recommending something totally different, well, we understand your goals differently. You probably want people that are working together for the one goal instead of trying to pull apart and prove that one's better than the other or whatever. Right. You want a cohesive plan that is all working together instead of something combative per se.
Yeah. And, if we have plenty of clients that have multiple advisors, right? And it just takes this extra level of communication, both on the advisor side and on the client side, right? And so it's just more work.
And as advisors, we're naturally a little competitive, even though it's friendly most of the time. But
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
But yeah, and advisors from other firms, they can be equally competitive against us and try to be, smarter than them, or, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And it's like, everybody in this industry knows a little bit.
As long as you're not, you trust the people you're working with, you're on the right path, doing the right things, you take your time, make decisions that are advised. I don't think there's any issue with having all your assets in one place. But be diligent and do your homework.
Yeah.
Right?
sure
Before you make that decision.
Align with
absolutely.
Theirs. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and one thing we say, Linda, too, is always you always want to talk with multiple different firms, at least 2. You probably don't want to do 3, 4, 5 firms because you can get caught in the paralysis by analysis. But I would definitely recommend you talk to at least one other firm so you can have something to contrast that one person against. And also, if you're I hope it's not an insurance product that they want to put all of your 7 accounts into, because a lot of insurance agents only masquerade as financial advisors or investment advisors, and they're just insurance agents. And a lot of time they'll try to put all your money into either annuities or cash value life insurance. It's not that those things are necessarily bad, but you definitely don't want all of your eggs in just one basket if it's an insurance product. If it's a brokerage account like at a Fidelity or a Charles Schwab, that's a completely different story. So if you're still watching, Linda, if you could let us know maybe a little bit more about what you're kind of thinking. So those are the two things. I would definitely at least interview another firm, let them get to know you and contrast the relationship. And I do this for everything I do in life because my brain sometimes leads me in the wrong direction. I'll trust my heart. Right, I'll trust my soul, and I believe that's what the soul is. It's that little thing inside you that is nagging at you and telling you, I should go this, I should do that. And sometimes the brain gets in the way and we decide to go a different direction. And for me, at least, that's when I find I usually get into trouble. So trust your soul, but definitely interview one or two more firms. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have tonight's first winner of the raffle. So Fred Haberly. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. It could be Haberl.
I would go
Haberly. Fred, congratulations. So our marketing team will be in contact with you to deliver a gift card of $100 to your favorite restaurant. Thank you very much for tuning in. And, of course, congratulations for winning. We're going to do one more raffle. So
and
the next
raffle.
raffle.
We look forward to meeting with you soon. Because I don't recognize the name. Do you recognize the name?
I do recognize the name.
Oh, okay. Maybe you already are.
Yeah, I believe he is a client. So we're going to do one more raffle. It's going to be in about 25 minutes or so. You should see a QR code on your screen. Register. You're going to receive the 10-step guide to being laid off. And you'll have an opportunity to win the next gift card.
It's not how to get laid off. It's if you get laid off, right?
Well, Nicole pushes that envelope every single day to see how far she can go. Okay.
Just each day a little more.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the nuance between, I didn't see if anyone responded about their retirement accounts, 401k versus 403b. Anything you guys want to share if someone has a 403b or a 457 regarding the considerations that they may have that someone with a 401k does not?
Yeah, I actually have a handful of clients who are pastors or work at a church. And if you're at a more church organization or educational organization, they offer a 403b. And I know specifically that for church organizations, even throughout retirement, if you can use your 403b for housing expenses. That's taxes, that's mortgage payments, I'm sure it's other things, but you want to make sure that you don't want to roll all that out into an IRA because then you lose that tax benefit. So if you keep it in the 403b and you can withdraw those funds and specifically use them for housing expenses, you're not taxed on that. So that is a significant benefit that you definitely don't want to give up on. So that's one important consideration and to be aware of. Yeah, I know we use 401k as a broad general description of an employer retirement plan, but oftentimes it is a 457b, which has different contribution limits and different rules there. Same with the 403b. And it all depends on what type of organization you work for that dictates what type of plan you have. Or government employees with a TSP. That doesn't even have numbers. It doesn't follow any rules.
Who came up with that one?
The government. Who knows?
Even the names of the funds don't make sense.
Right? The G fund.
So I kind of want to go down the NUA route, the net unrealized appreciation, but I don't know if any of you have net unrealized appreciation opportunities inside your portfolio. So the short explanation is net unrealized appreciation is a strategy that you can take advantage of if you have company stock inside your portfolio. So if you do have company stock inside your portfolio, let me know in the chat. A lot of really good planning opportunities with net unrealized appreciation, but I don't want to waste everyone's time if no one here could possibly benefit from that strategy.
We see that more in larger corporations like oil and gas. What's bigger around here? Hospitals, maybe.
Working on one right now for ExxonMobil retiring.
Yeah, we see it a lot there.
So what about the pension and lump sum side of things? So here in Houston, many people have not only the 401k, but they also have a lump sum. And right now, interest rates are changing.
Moving down.
Yeah. So I remember when interest rates were going up, we were talking to people about how that could impact their lump sum and then the pension decision they were having to make. Right now, interest rates are going down. So what does that mean for your lump sum?
Yeah. So lump sum pensions typically work inversely with interest rates. So, back in 2022 when interest rates were going up, especially that second half, we're getting a lot of calls, a lot of Rule 55 type opportunities for people because by October or November, their lump sums are going to come down because they're making that adjustment.
Yeah.
And interest rates were climbing so quick. It was pretty significant. A $1.2 million pension might lose $250,000 of its
lump
value.
sum.
Lump sum pension might lose $250,000 of its value, and so they're wanting to retire ahead of that
Deadline.
update that they make at the end of their whatever fiscal quarter it would be. So now we're working the opposite way. So we've dealt with the decreasing lump sum pensions with interest rates going up. Now they're kind of coming back down. So we should start to expect to see lump sum pensions rising again, which puts more favor into them when we look at it from a break-even standpoint, especially.
What's the one big mistake, Nicole, or not big mistake, but what's the one thing that if people want secure income and they really want the stability of having the pension, what's one of the biggest things that they overlook when making that decision, do you think?
I would say the stability or the ability of that company to be able to continue to make those payments. I had a client worked for Delta, started receiving his pension, very significant pension. And I think 4 or 5 years after he had been receiving a monthly pension, Delta filed bankruptcy, cut him off completely.
PBGC?
Defunded his pension. PBGC only insured the survivor benefit.
Interesting.
So once he passed away, the survivor got a survivor pension, but he didn't get anything else while he was alive.
Amazing.
And so it's just a matter of, do you trust your company to be able to continue to pay that pension benefit? It's different if it's government versus private corporations. There's a lot of considerations
So
there.
PBGC is the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. I'm curious. I wonder why they didn't cover,
It
to
was a
some extent,
huge lawsuit.
the pension itself.
That's interesting.
I even had a personal attorney friend look into it and be like, is there anything we can do for him? And he was already part of all the lawsuits and didn't win any of them.
That's interesting.
So I tell you right now, if you're a city worker, not necessarily here in Houston, but this is going to be a crisis over the next 20 years. There will be several municipalities that are going to do the same thing, that will be unable to pay their pensions. I haven't looked at the numbers, the solvency ratios in a couple of years, but Kentucky, I think, led the nation, the state of Kentucky, and then some cities within the state. Last I saw, I want to say it was like 50. I don't want to laugh, like 15% funded or something like that.
But you want to look at, is the city growing or is it shrinking? So if you're here in Houston, we're definitely a growing city. So there's not necessarily that immediate fear.
True, but I mean, just
But it
recently,
doesn't mean it could
what
change.
happened with the police and the firefighters, how they had to restructure everything not too long ago.
Amended and restated agreements.
Yeah. So, and part of that is unions negotiate really, really good pensions, really, really good benefits. And a lot of times those benefits are so good that they're
unsustainable.
They're unsustainable. So things do have to be changed. And this is part of the problem in a lot of cities. A lot of the blue states, New Jersey, Illinois, California is super, super well funded. But part of that is because of the regulatory system and the laws that they've put in place. But then
Very
you have
strict.
red states as well, like Kentucky. And so it's not necessarily a blue or a red state problem. It's just poor pension management. It's heavily or strongly negotiated pensions that the underlying fund balance can't support. So this is a crisis. It will be a crisis over the next 20 years because there are a lot of these pensions across the country that are extremely underfunded, and they'll most likely go belly up. So, and you bring up a good point. When you said Delta filed bankruptcy and they said, sorry, nothing we can do for you. So a pension account, if you have a lump sum or a pension, it's one giant account, okay, called a defined benefit account.
It's a trust fund.
Right. So Your 401k is your individual account. It's in your name. It's segregated. If the company goes belly up, your 401k will not be impacted. But when you have a lump sum or a pension, it's part of a defined benefit plan that's one pool of money where you just are promised a lifetime income benefit. And that pool of money is managed by the company, and it is a liability on the balance sheet of that company. And if they file bankruptcy, I'm sorry about your luck there. So that speaks to one of the reasons to possibly take the lump sum as opposed to the pension.
Yeah.
Ryan, okay, so you said that. That's a really, really good answer. I was kind of hoping you'd go in a little bit different direction.
You thought I'd pick the shiny, bright, happy answer? No, you don't know better.
We can use the lottery as an example.
All right. Ryan, let's see if you can get this correct.
If you can turn the mood around.
Lump sum versus...
No. So I said what is, and I'm obviously just joking here, but what is one of the things that is most often overlooked when people decide to take the pension? How does that impact their retirement forever?
Taxes.
Thank you.
Taxes. 100%.
Sorry.
Oh, you led the horse to water. I took a drink. Yeah. When you take the annual pension, it's just taxable income, ordinary income. Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, forced income. You can't do much tax
There
planning
it is.
around it.
Income's good, right? So not complaining about that side of it. But the lump sum version still offers you opportunity for income, many different strategies to go there, but it also now brings in the opportunity to do some tax planning, right? And I think that can generally make sense. Look at the break even. I brought up the lottery jokingly, but honestly, it's a good exercise to look at.
It's a good retirement strategy.
Well, that's a great retirement strategy. But most people, when they win the lottery, they take the lump sum because the math makes sense, right? It maths. And, whether it's a corporate pension or any other, government pension of some kind, it just makes sense to dig in and look at the numbers, do the math, right? Mm-hmm. And then we start adding those ancillary things that you're leading to. Taxes. How does it fit in the overall tax plan?
You know what makes me upset? I think we should lobby, and I don't lobby. I'm not involved in political activism, but it irks me to death that they advertise $1 billion lump sum. Okay, one, you're obviously going to pay taxes, okay? And then that's if you take the annuitized value, right? So they discount it to some type of value as a lump sum. So it's $1 billion payout, but so it may be 600 million. Was a lot of money.
It's about 35% less usually.
But then you got to pay taxes on that. So if you win $1 billion, then you're getting 300 million, somewhere in that range maybe. Point being, it's the advertising of it, and I think that's what drives people to spend so much money on the lotto. I guess totally off topic. It just irks me. They should not be able to say you'll win $1 billion. They should say you'll win 300 million because that's the net number that you walk away with.
Yeah.
And then people would keep more money. I mean, so many people. Look, and my grandfather, every single day he would pick me up from school on the way home. He'd stop and he'd buy $50 worth of lotto tickets. And then we'd wait for the lotto to come on Sunday and never win anything. He would win here and there, of course, but now.
But not millions.
No. Point being was there's. This is now I'm getting into kind of just the financial. Passion to see people make better decisions with their money. If everyone had just simply bought NVIDIA stock 10 years ago with their lotto dollars, you'd have some people.
This is not a recommendation to buy or sell any securities,
yes.
yada, yada, yada.
Yes. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. But no, just the S&P index fund, right? Something like that. So, okay, off my high horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taxes.
No, it just reminded me. I have a client who we were going through her tax return for 2023. I noticed she had lottery winnings or gambling winnings of $1,000. And I'm like, great. So we're planning for 2024. I'm like, so let me take those out of our scenario. And she goes, no, actually leave those in. I won another $1,000 this year. And I'm like, no, you didn't. She's like, yes, I did. So then this year we're going through. I'm like, all right, can I take this out? It's like November. This was like last week or the week before. And the husband's like, yeah, take it out. And she goes, no, don't do it yet. I'm feeling lucky. I'm like, okay. We'll plan for it. I just thought it was hilarious.
Okay, so did anyone type in the NUA? Can we talk about NUA or no?
Does anyone care? NUA?
No? Okay, so we'll move off of the NUA. Okay, so we are going to go to some questions here that we have pre-prepared.
But the answers are not.
So okay, so this is actually one we didn't cover beforehand, Miss Smarty Pants, and I'm going to throw it to you. What's more valuable in retirement, income planning or investment selection?
Do I have to pick one over the other? I would say
you have to pick one, and you have to give reasoning.
income planning, because the income planning is what drives the investment selection, in my opinion. It's what's the timing that we're going to need that income, what's the volatility of the markets, what are our different options. So that's probably how I would approach the answer.
You know, and that's a really, really unique answer because it just shows how different people can look at money and look at planning. So my initial thought when I read that question was, well, it depends. So I was thinking of it in terms of the impact on your overall retirement that investment selection could have versus income planning, not the sequence of what kind of determines what. But here's what I thought my answer would have been, and I had time to think about this. I wasn't just put on the spot.
Go figure.
But as your portfolio becomes more aggressive, investment selection becomes more important because you have a wider disparity of potential returns.
Yeah.
And you could make a whole bunch of money or you could lose a whole bunch of money. But as your portfolio comes down the risk scale and it becomes more conservative, income planning becomes far more important because that can result in what is income planning? It's how you're generating income and where you're pulling your income from.
And when.
Yeah, and when. So this could result in tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of more dollars in your pocket. So, but it's funny how we took the same question and as planners, we looked at it two different ways.
Well, and just recently I had a client, we were in the play zone, so our software has this area where you can we have some sliders that you can see, well, what if I spend this much? How is that going to impact my probability of success score? And so I was just playing with it, running numbers up, what I call let's break your plan. Let's see how much is too much spending, right? And so I brought up his numbers so that his probability score started going down. I said, but this is without adjusting any of your investments. So I kind of went to the portfolio section, reduced his equity exposure, and his plan went back up to 99, and his jaw dropped. And he's like, wait a minute, you mean the less equities I have, the better my plan could be? And I'm like, absolutely. And he goes, so really, you're like risk managers? And I'm like, absolutely. Like the light bulb went off. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we're doing.
Planners, all we did is we lifted the curtain so he could have visibility into the decisions that he had to make, the potential impact. So Ryan, could you please explain how reducing your exposure to equities in your plan can increase your probability of success?
Yeah, technically on Monte Carlo or just in real life?
Same thing.
Both.
How we use Monte Carlo and apply it in real life.
Monte Carlo runs 1,000 different trials over 1,000 different return possibilities. And so when you limit the downside risk, you limit how bad those bad trials fell and how quickly they fell, right? And in real life translation, it's pretty simple. The down isn't as bad, right? And so when we think about the market's down, then the market's up over some cycle or time period, when we have less of a hole to dig out of, you don't need to make as much coming out to continue to be successful, right? And so when we limit the volatility, which limits it both up and down, which is important to understand, right? We can't go in and pull ourselves down to a 30-70, 40-60 type portfolio and expect that the S&P's up 25, we're up 25, right? That's not a good expectation to set on the upside. But ultimately, decreasing, especially when it makes sense to, decreasing our risk and putting it into things that just because we decrease risk doesn't mean we're not making money, right? There's a lot of things on that non-equity
Doesn't
side.
mean we're never going to change it again.
Right. And we're not set in stone ever.
Right.
But ultimately, where are we shifting? What type of taxed account it is? Where do we put our risk? I think is even more of an important question, right? If we have all three types of a major account, right? We have our qualified tax deferred accounts, we have non-qualified after-tax accounts, and we have Roth. Well, if we shift the majority of our risk towards the Roth, secondarily towards the non-qualified, and we have very, very little, if none, in the IRA, right? That could be a well-suited type of investment plan based on tax and income.
Yeah.
Right.
based
And
on
then we
our
have
income
different,
strategy
right?
And
So-
you're reducing your long-term taxes because you're getting your growth in the more tax-advantaged accounts, the
Right.
non-qual and the
Absolutely.
Roth, and you're more conservative in the IRA.
So reducing risk is an individual thing, right? Different people have different risk appetites, right? One of the things that we do kind of on the perspective side is walk through risk, where they're currently at. How much risk do we need to be successful? I think that's really important to kind of identify
Create that baseline. And,
Right.
and even if the
Versus-
and even if the client doesn't either understand it or care to go through that exercise, it's our responsibility to know that
Right.
point,
We need to know it.
because what that tells us as planners and as advisors
As fiduciaries.
as fiduciaries is, okay, this is the point where this is the baseline, right? This is where I know this particular client is in order for the plan to succeed or fail or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And everybody has a different risk appetite, and then the willingness to accept that risk, right? In both an up and a down market. That's always the case. So we set that baseline, right? One of the things I always like to talk about is what I call undue risk for those more aggressive people. Look, here's our baseline. This is all we need to be successful. We're wildly successful here, but we want to be here. That's fine. That's not wrong, right? It's your money. We're going to do it. We're going to figure out a way to plan for it. But it can help drive those future conversations, say 5 years down the road, and all of a sudden the market's down big and maybe somebody's not enjoying that ride. They're not as comfortable as they used to be. That helps us drive those conversations to make adjustments to that risk tolerance, to the risk management of their retirement plan, so that they can go back to what we said earlier, have peace of mind, sleep at night, right? Enjoy their retirement, not worry about the market.
And it changes. It's dynamic.
Extremely.
You know,
Absolutely.
when you come in today to sit down and talk to us, if you're a prospective client or you're an existing client, and we're trying to identify this base level of let's call it growth, because growth and risk are synonymous, and
Yep.
you know, if we identify this is the base level that we need to achieve, then next year it's going to be different because the accounts are different. You have 1 year less of life expectancy.
1 year less of cash flow needs.
You want, yes. So it's dynamic.
Yeah. It's going to the kids 1 year quicker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I do tell clients. If we have some heavy drawdown years from your portfolio, then maybe we are going to be a little less aggressive. But once we're less dependent on our portfolio, yeah, now we can try to rebuild that portfolio again. We can be more aggressive because all of our income needs are met. And now we're not going to lose sleep if there is a pullback in the market, and we're still sleeping safely, sleeping soundly, not afraid to go spend our money. Because that is just what I hate to see. I hate it when clients come in and they haven't gone on their trips, they haven't bought their toys because they're
Right.
afraid that they're going to run out of money. And so that's it's been my soapbox this year is go out there, make some memories, because you never know how long you have to do that.
So I have a few more topics that I want to get into, but guys, if you have any particular questions here, I see a lot of back and forth, a lot of comments. But if you do have any particular questions that you want us to address, go ahead and type them in here. We're getting to the last, let's call it 10 minutes or so. We're going to have our raffle winner upcoming here. Any questions, please get them in, and we'll spend some time discussing them. So a lot of people want the lump sum. Have you guys seen anyone recently who has taken the pension or wanted to take the pension instead of the lump sum when they retire?
A couple.
You had one we talked about, or was that
yeah,
Eric?
It was I had one earlier this year with the interest rates going up as quick as they did. It was
Is it a
about
private pension?
Huh? It was
Private
private. Yeah.
That makes more sense.
It was a weird one. It was just right around a 9-year break even, which is almost half of what it usually is for a corporate pension. So
short.
they went ahead and did the annual pension, and it made sense in that light.
Yeah.
Because what we were going to say earlier about the taxes, the pension automatically for the rest of your life fills up the tax buckets on the beginning end of the progressive tax structure.
Right.
And
So-
in most cases causes all your Social Security benefits, or 85% of your Social Security benefit, to be taxable as well.
Yeah, so your Social Security will always be 85% taxable, which is the maximum that it can be. But then in addition to that, once you start your required minimum distributions, now you have your pension, your Social Security, technically your pension, your RMDs, your Social Security, all of that is being taxed. And you're always going to be in these permanently high tax
You have
brackets.
no choice.
So it's that trade-off of stability with the pension versus flexibility with your entire retirement plan. Right. So, and if you take the lump sum, you can still create stability while maintaining flexibility.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing that gets overlooked. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say too. I've quoted the term break even a few times when we look at lump sum versus annual. Those break evens don't include the potential of growth of any kind within that lump sum either. So you start, you average even modest 3-4% a year. By the time you even hit that break even of say 16 years, you've probably actually extended out into the mid 20s, right? And so you retire at 60, 65. You're not breaking even minimally until you're about 85 or 90.
In most of those break-even analyses, they just take they don't take the net present value of those future income streams.
That's right.
Because now it's even less.
Right.
Okay, so we have our second raffle winner. So again, forgive me for the pronunciation, but I believe it is Ashok Batra. So Ashok, congratulations on being our tonight's second raffle winner. Our marketing department will be in contact with you to deliver that gift card. We're going to go through probably about another 5 or 10 minutes here. If you do have any questions, guys, get them in. We'll discuss them. Going to talk a little bit more about taxes, continuing on how this pension lump sum decision could impact that, not just today, but for retirement. And hopefully we get a couple questions here that we can tackle. So we love questions, especially Nicole. Give her the hard ones.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wanted to bring up, we've talked a lot about private pensions. My background is in the public pension sector, where the lump sum doesn't necessarily make any sense at all, where it's just really you're only getting back your personal contributions. Maybe you're getting some kind of 3-4% growth on those contributions, but that's all you're going to get back. You're basically forfeiting any right to a lifetime benefit that could easily be quadruple 5 times the amount of what your contributions were into that plan. So don't get me wrong, the government wants you to take that because now they don't have to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rest of your life. They just pay you $50,000 and just wave their hand goodbye. So you want to make sure you really take a look at that. Again, the how it's insured, how it's secured, who's that governing agency behind it, and making sure you're making that best decision.
Well, it's like TRS here. I've never seen a TRS lump sum that was worth
That
taking.
made sense. Yeah.
It's like you can take $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, or $12.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
But that's what it is. You're right.
At max, it's a 3-year lump sum you can take. 3 years worth of the income.
Who?
TRS.
Yeah, they have a couple different. They have a couple partial lump sum offers.
Yeah, they
have
do.
a full,
where you can
they're all
reduce your
partials,
pension
but-
amount by
Yeah.
taking some. It depends on what tier you're in. There's like 5 or 6 different tiers. So again, no blanket answer
No
there.
blanket answer.
Okay,
But-
so it looks like we do have a question here. Did Ray ask? I'm looking for Ray's question. Someone was responding to Ray. Okay, so Ray says, what's your theory in taking Social Security at 62 since break even is close to 79 or 80?
Are you feeling lucky?
Well, if we knew the date of death,
It's-
it's just
it's
a
a
math
lucky day.
equation.
Yeah, right. That's
I
just
mean-
it. Is look at your family history. How healthy are you? Most people these days, what's the average lifespan right now? By the age you're 65, you can be expected to live to
I think it's like 83
82, 83. Yeah,
and
so I was
83
going to
for
say.
male, 88 for a female.
Yeah, so if you're going based off of those odds, but those are odds, those are statistics. That's not necessarily your own personal journey, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have high blood pressure, or maybe you've had cancer in the past, or something that could significantly reduce your lifespan. Okay, that is part of that consideration.
Well, and what else is going on, right? Because let's say just under that question, you're 62, getting ready to retire. Do I turn on my Social Security or do I wait? Whether that's 2 years, 5 years, all the way to 70, whatever. What else is going on?
What's your priorities?
Right. And but what's the asset situation? Are we all in qualified dollars? We want to do Roth conversions. We want to look at that type of tax planning. Well, by delaying Social Security, you give more room in a tax bracket to potentially do the things you want to do in tax and income planning, while you're sitting here deferring getting 7+% of essentially guaranteed growth. I'm not supposed to use that word, but it's there.
From Social Security.
From Social Security, not from Oak Harvest.
We pay you to delay your Social
But,
Security.
you know,
I didn't
so
say that. That's not
coming
true.
back to one of the things that was said early on in the show, right? We never make the decision in a vacuum or in a bubble, right? It's you've always famously said it's like dominoes. You knock one, you're knocking the others. So how does that decision around Social Security fit with everything else? Right? It may be the right choice to turn it on at 62.
It may or may not, Ray. But here's what I want you to take away. Forget about the break even, okay? Because most break even analysis isn't even taking the net present value, which means taking into account the time value of money. It's just looking at the pure 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, adding all the dollars you'll get if you take it here versus all the dollars you'll get if you'll take it at a different age, and identifying a break even point. It's truly a completely worthless analysis. Think of it this way. Are you married? What's your health? Okay. Because the decision you make with your Social Security is going to impact your spouse. If you take it at 62, if she's younger than you, and then
you're
she
the main
decides to take it
breadwinner.
at 62, well, now she's being permanently discounted on top of the 50% discount that she already receives for getting the spousal benefit. And if you pass away, she may get your benefit, but it's a much smaller benefit than it would have been otherwise if you waited a little bit longer. Point being, there's more important things than the break-even point. That's just one. What's your health? Are you married? Let's look at to Ryan's point and Nicole's point, your retirement account balances, your tax situation, your other assets. All of these things are far more important than the break-even point when it comes to your Social Security. Your investment risk tolerance. If you're a very conservative investor and you don't like to see your money fluctuate in value, well, Social Security, if you defer it, is probably going to return more than your investments. So mathematically, it makes more sense to defer your Social Security. So there's a lot more to look at. To Ryan's point, like we always say here, we need to make that decision as part of an overall plan. And that's why having someone by your side to help you make these decisions, as well as the rest of the decisions that you have in retirement, is a very valuable component of a successful retirement. So think of it that way. Hopefully I can change that perspective a little bit, and don't fall for the break-even analysis stuff, because it's not even mathematically accurate for the most part. Okay, we had another question here. Sorry, I'm getting things to pop up on the screen here.
We got dead air. How do I fill it?
Well, okay, so Mike asked, I'm sorry, just the the little poll thing is in the way. I can't get it to go. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I was on the wrong shocker.
Sorry, I was looking up the scores of the football
Yes.
games.
Sorry, the Texans are starting soon. So this is a good one. So Michelle says, Corneglia. So I'll throw this to you, Ryan, or maybe I should throw it to Nicole, because if she's asking the question, maybe you haven't answered it for her.
Yeah, that could be true.
I don't know. Do you want her to switch sides?
Michelle says, it just keeps, the comments I keep finding the comments and someone else comments and it scrolls down. I'm going to paraphrase because I cannot find it. But she said
That she wishes
okay,
she
do you
would
have any recommendations for how not to be nervous in early retirement with an expected 72T in place?
How not to be nervous in early retirement with an expected 72T.
Even though she has a 72T in place. So 72T, for those who don't know, it's
Thank you.
It's a formula that sets up a substantially series of equal periodic payments from a retirement account when you're prior to 59 and a half, and it helps to bridge that gap. So there's 3 different formulas, the way you can calculate it. Ryan, you probably know which formula she has, although there's only one that typically is any good. So it's a series of payments from a retirement account prior to age 59 and a half that allows you to generate income from that account without a 10% penalty. Right. So that's what a 72T is. So Michelle is saying, how do I feel confident in early retirement, even though she has that 72T in place?
I would say making sure you're not overly exposed in the funds that are generating that income. You want to make sure that you're in some fairly safe investments that you know are not going to fluctuate too high up or down to continue to be able to make those payments over time. That would give you that peace of mind. Yeah. Whether if you're in 100% NVIDIA and maybe they take a nosedive one day, yeah, that would make you nervous. So you just want to make sure that you're more balanced in your investment approach behind it.
Well, but okay, so what she's saying though is she has the income in place. She's younger than 59 and a half, so she's young. So she can't be. But
the income's coming from these investments.
True, but she may have multiple retirement accounts.
Yeah. I would just say, I don't know if she said it or you said it, but focus on what happens after the term bridge the gap, right? That's what this is designed for. I know who's setting this up. This is Lizzie, right? So, this is going to be set up well. Hopefully that has some confidence in itself. But once we get to 59 and a half and that's no longer, the 72T is no longer being used, how's everything else going? What's the tax plan around that, right? Because there's certain things being set in place with the entire retirement plan that's setting up for what happens after the gap is bridged, right? And so focus on that more so because we know that 72T is in place, right? It's going to provide that income and that account's set up correctly for that. So what's happening after, let's focus on the longer term and maybe that will help find a little more peace.
Yeah, so I like that answer. So you're focusing more on, so the 72, do you know how many years that it's set up for?
I figured you were going to put me on
10 years, I think.
Well, it's minimum of 5.
Yeah.
So 5 or so you may be, depending on your age, you could be forced to take it after 59 and a half. You set it up at 57, for example, but they're early 50s.
Okay. So let's say it's 8 years. So to your point, let's focus on the planning after year 8.
Right.
So I assume that's more probably the equity portion of the portfolio that has time to grow.
Yep.
Make sure you're just monitoring it. Every time you sit down, you're taking a look. Is this still within the range of acceptability? And make adjustments as needed as you go along. It's not necessarily, we'll look at that when you're 59.
Look,
right. You're still looking at it every year,
Yeah,
but
you're
focusing
still
on
looking
what
at it.
things are happening now for that long-term future for her and Mark. I think when we narrow our focus, right, we tend to place our fear into that focus, and the more narrow that is, the more we fear it, right? And so if we expand that, focus on the longer term goals, it really does psychologically help us understand that we have a good plan in place. We're working towards the right things, right? And it can bring us more peace of mind.
Yeah. And I assume this is something that's recently been set up?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you
it's in the process, I think.
So I'll tell you
Mark's
one thing,
still
Michelle.
working,
Every client I've ever worked with that retires in their early to mid 50s, always worried if they're either retiring too soon, whether it was a forced retirement because they were laid off or a life circumstance. It's just natural. So what you're feeling is very, very, very natural, and that's okay. But trust in the plan. And what I would do if I were you is just to make yourself feel better, to be reassured. every morning at 7 a.m. Call Ryan.
Lizzie.
Oh, Lizzie's up by 6. You can call
Well,
Lizzie at 6.
they're on the West Coast, so that'd be 9 a.m. my time. I'm in the office
So
by
that's
then.
okay then.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Good question, though.
yeah,
That's
that's
a
an
great
excellent
question. Thank you,
question
Michelle.
because I love the questions that actually give us an opportunity to kind of talk
Yeah,
through
impromptu.
some of the planning considerations. And I'll tell you, one of the things that has come out tonight that I really enjoy, and I don't think it has come out as frequently in the other live streams that we've done with you, with Ed, with Lizzie, with Eric, with Dustin, with everyone else, the differing views on the same question. You know, how we've kind of looked at things all night a little bit differently. But
good.
that's part of the value of, I think, just what we do here and the teamwork and the open atmosphere and the collaboration. It's really, really cool because there's been a lot of times over the years where I'm pretty certain that this is the right thing to do. But you'll have one or two people point out things that, you know what, you can do this a different way. And it's an art so much of what we do as opposed to a science. So it's there are nuances that other people with different views can bring a lot of value to the equation.
And the
Multiple
nuances
sets.
aren't necessarily mathematical, right? That's one of my most frequent sayings is the math may say one thing,
She
but
said she's going to call you at 6 a.m. daily.
yay! I'll make sure you get his personal cell phone number.
I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's
Yeah, no,
great.
I don't remember what I was saying. I'm just too excited about Ryan being called at 6 a.m. every morning.
Let me see if people are still here.
They've all gone to bed now.
Okay, so healthcare. Let's talk about healthcare a little bit.
Oh.
So we got 5 minutes or so. We want to talk about healthcare because, one, this is in the news now. But prior to 65, you're retiring, and for the past 6-7 years, especially since I did not do that on purpose, but Ryan threw me a 6-7, so that's
Oh.
Sorry.
for the past 6 or 7 years. If you retired prior to 65, the government subsidies for getting a policy on the exchange were huge.
We're enhanced.
Were significant. So come the new year, if you're younger than 65, so not on Medicare, the cost of health insurance premiums is going to be a lot higher than it has been the past few years. So this is a big thing. If you've been laid off, if you're retiring, hopefully you've planned for this. Although I can tell you, and you all know, that so many people do not plan for this. They know
plans to
that
be
it's
laid
going to be
off.
expensive a lot of times, but they haven't done a good job preparing for it. But if you've been laid off, it's going to be a real shock. So let's say you're 62, you've been laid off, and you got COBRA, obviously. Say you're 60. So you have COBRA for 18 months. You realize you're going to have to pay these massive health insurance premiums from age, let's call it 61 and a half, 62, till 65.
Well, that is if you're not trying to find a new job, per se. Yeah, because there's options. There's COBRA, right, that can last up to 18 months. And I always tell people check that out first. It might, the cost might be similar, but it's most likely a better plan with doctors that you know and trust already. So that's typically the first route I have people go. But just because the enhanced subsidy is going away, there is still a subsidy. So if we do some income planning, we can potentially try to keep your income low enough to still take advantage of some government support in making those
There you go.
premium costs.
Softball, Nicole, swing and miss.
Good.
Yes, from a planning perspective, you can manipulate your income.
Yes.
Ultimately, where you withdraw income from when you get
But
laid
I was
off
going
or
to
retire.
point out, maybe there's a spouse that's still working. You can go to their plan or whatever.
That's a good one too.
Ugh.
From a planning perspective, though, no, that's a really good point because planning would be unnecessary if your spouse has health insurance. You could just hop on their plan.
Although I have heard people say, if I add my spouse, it's another $1,000 a month just to add one more person. And so it's like, oh, well, maybe let's go back to the Affordable Care Act. So it just depends on the plan and if the employer's willing to pay part of the premium for someone other than the employee. So it takes a lot of research first before you can actually give an answer there.
Yeah, just to kind of pick up the phone and call and ask what the premiums will be. Mm-hmm. A lot of research.
A lot of research.
It is. Well, then you got to research ACA plans. What's that going to cost? Can I qualify for a subsidy? Well, what is the COBRA going to cost? Or how long am I going to need it? There's research that needs to be done.
Absolutely. I'm picking on you. You know
I
that.
know you are.
But the subsidy planning, I want to end on this, and then we'll call it a night. When you don't have a job, whether you've been laid off or retired, you have savings. You have the retirement account, your non-retirement accounts. It's important to understand that you can control what goes on your tax return from where you withdraw, and that can translate to qualifying for a much larger subsidy, which can then bring your health insurance premiums. You know, these new rates, they're going to be outrageous relative to what people are accustomed to. And
If you don't
from
qualify.
maybe $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month, maybe down to $300, $400, $500 a month. So Ryan, just kind of walk us through how somebody might do that by deciding where they take their income from.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about the different types of tax accounts, right? So your after-tax non-qualified accounts do offer the ability. You have a large cash savings or something like that, where maybe for a year or 2 or even 3, we can live off that where it's not impacting taxable income. Here's a good opportunity to talk about Social Security early, right? This would be an advocate on that side of it, is if we are living on Social Security only, along with supplementing with cash, for example, after-tax monies, probably not paying a whole lot of tax, keeping that taxable income low.
Yeah, well, capital gains do count toward that subsidy limit. So I've even had a few cases so far this year where I'm like, okay, let's realize the gains that we need to this year
Oh, that's a good point.
so that we can make sure those capital gains aren't going to push us up into a higher or make us lose that benefit next year.
Yeah.
So I've been planning this year to realize that income this year so that it's ready to go for next year. And in this particular case, he's 64. He'll reach 65 next year, so we just need to get him through this next year.
That is an excellent point, because you're planning for when you realize taxes on your income to not rebalance the portfolio, not to do Roth conversions, but to actually plan for income in the subsequent years, but also potentially health care costs in future years. So by selling it today, you're preparing your client for income next year, to have that income, but then also helping them keep their health insurance costs down next year. So that's a really, really, really good point.
Creating that after-tax money.
Say that again.
Softball.
Say it again. Say it
Yeah,
again.
yeah, that's an excellent point, Nicole. That may
Thank
be
you.
actually the best point all night. So we'll
Good
until
job.
and wait. I got one to challenge you though right
Oh,
here.
no.
So that
No,
Here we
we're
go.
going to end on a high note.
No,
Nope.
Well,
That's
this-
it for us
no,
today.
well, this will be two good high notes, and we'll call it a night. And actually, I'm going to throw it to you because you had talked about this before, but Ryan brought up a good point. I'm just going to bring it home. So taking Social Security early. So let's say you're 60, you get laid off, 62, unless you're, I guess,
A widow.
yeah, widow. You could take it at 60. So 62, you get laid off. You turn Social Security on, and then 10 months later, you get a job. Now, why would you turn Social Security on? Because you need income. Okay, so maybe it's 12 months later. You get into the next year. Point being is you've created income for yourself, but you've kept yourself in a lower tax bracket because you've taken Social Security for healthcare subsidies. But then you go back to work. What can you do with that Social Security?
So you can suspend the benefit, which means, there's different, well, you have to withdraw the benefit if you're below full retirement age. So then you would have to pay back that Social Security, and then it's basically as it was. And then it will continue to accrue as it was before. If you're after full retirement age, you can do what's called withdraw your benefit, and that just turns it off. You don't have to pay anything back, and you continue to accrue that 8% every year until you decide to turn it on again. So there are options there for your Social Security.
So from a planning perspective, if you've been laid off because I'd have to look into this. Maybe you guys know. When you're looking at modified adjusted gross income for the subsidy calculation, are you still taking 1/2 of Social Security benefits? Do you guys know off the top
I
of your
think
head?
it's taking your whole Social
the
Security.
I
whole
think
Social
you,
Security?
you bring that back
You bring
in
it
for
all in.
modified.
And I know different states are going to do it differently. So you have some states that have their own formulas, like New York.
New York has to be
They have their
special.
own exchange, but they go off the federal. So this is one of those planning areas where we have to get very, very down into the details, what states you live in, and the specific parameters around what's known as modified adjusted gross income. You have at least 7 different ways to calculate modified adjusted gross income. Like, not kidding,
At least.
for different parts of the tax code. So one of them is for determining if you qualify for a subsidy from the healthcare exchange, whether it's the federal exchange or you have one in your state. And you have to double check if it's half of Social Security or full Social Security.
I'm pretty sure it's full
I think
Social
Full Social
so.
Security?
I think so.
The point being, you could essentially take a loan from Social Security because you plan on either paying it back or then you can withdraw it and allow it to continue to defer. But that income obviously can fill the gap and help you still qualify and pay a little bit less in health insurance premiums.
Because that's the irony. You have to have some income to qualify for the subsidy, but not too much income. You got to find this happy medium and figure out where that balance is. If you have no income, you don't qualify and you have to pay the full premium. Tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, yours was better. Final thoughts, guys. We're going to wrap it up now. So it's had a lot of great information tonight. Ryan, I'll throw it to you for any final thoughts about 401ks, pensions, taxes, retirement in general.
Just kind of the opening point, right? When we're forced into a decision that we're not ready to make yet, I think it's just really important to take a moment, take a deep breath, assess the entire situation, not just what happened, whether it's the 401k, the pension, healthcare, any of those things. Just step back, right? Act, don't react, as Nicole likes to say. I just think it's really important because.
But be proactive.
But
Yeah.
we have to work towards decisions,
Yeah.
yes, but
Because-
not just for the sake of making a decision.
Well, because not making a decision
Is
is
making a
making a decision.
decision.
You're
Right.
making a decision to not make
make
a decision.
Right? We're not looking for inaction. We're looking for educated action.
Yeah, and
right?
You couldn't have said it better.
And I can kind of layer onto that, if you will. If you just feel like there's too many decisions to be made all at once, prioritize what decision is most important, because that's another thing, is when you have too many decisions to make and you don't know where to start. That's where it helps to work with a financial professional, talk to your family. What are the priorities? What decisions do we need to make first? And then move on to those next steps.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. The big takeaway for me is that it never fails to astound me, the complexity of the decision-making process when you begin to weigh all of the choices that you have to make in retirement. We layered in tonight healthcare, different subsidies, obviously taxes that we always talk about, your 401k, your pension, the lump sum. Every single decision that you make, we talk about it on the radio show this weekend. So I'm gonna share you the story that I shared on the radio. If I knew what I knew then, if I knew now what I knew then, if I knew then what I know now when I was 18.
What are you trying to say, Troy?
The life decisions, right? We know the butterfly effect. So if you could model out when you were 18, if I made this decision, went to that school, dated this person, my life would turn out that way. Or here's a range of possible outcomes that my life could turn out. Or if I stayed home this night instead of going to that party, or joined this sports team or intramural or fraternity or sorority, and then you could model out what your life looked at from that decision that you made.
Is that what you stay up using AI for?
But it's a really interesting thought exercise because it's very easy to then bring that to the retirement phase.
Yeah.
And we can literally do that right now. if you make this decision with your pension, if lump sum, like Linda earlier, rolling 7 accounts over to one place, what's your investment strategies? What's your bucket approach? Social security strategy, tax strategy. Those things, Linda, are probably far more important than rolling them over to one custodian. But if you could model out your life when you were 18 based on all these tough choices that you had at the time, you would give anything, right? You know, all of us would have made much better decisions and end up in probably much better places. But you have that ability now at retirement. We can literally take all of the choices that you have to make and model them out. We can't give you specific outcomes. We can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but we can, with a high degree of confidence, create a range of likely outcomes. And I tell you what, if I was 18, that'd be good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just start buying NVIDIA.
All right, guys.
GameStop.
So
They'll know exactly what
December
Dave's selling.
18th. December 18th, Corinne, is that when the next one is? Yes.
Oh, my
So
brother's
December
birthday.
18th, we have Chris Paris and Charles Scavone. So Chris, as most of you know, and Charles on the investment team. So 16th, Tuesday. So December 16th, we are going to do a year-end recap. We're going to talk about, it's been a crazy year, going back
yeah.
to the tariff day drop, where the markets were down 10% in a couple of days.
The infamous tweet.
To the surge that we've had since then. The market has literally gone straight up. And then now we're kind of in this funk where everything growth related is kind of taking a dive and value starting to become a bit more attractive. Is that going to sustain? Is this going to change course? We don't know, but we're going to talk about the entire year in review and get you ready for the 2026 stock market outlook that we'll be doing in January. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight. December 16th is when we'll see you again. Charles and Chris will be here with a complete investment recap of 2024 and what to look out for 2026.